Hello, my name is Hakon, and welcome back, all you fabulous fighting fantasy aficionados, to yet another long-awaited episode of a fighting fantasy playthrough video, where today I get started on Armies of Death, which is fighting fantasy gamebook number 36. Mine does not have a number on the spine, so I had to double check just before I started this video. I was quite sure it was 36, but nice to get the numbers right so I don't have to do some dubbing afterwards to correct myself or put a little text on the screen. And this is one where I believe you are some kind of it's like a sequel to first Death Trap Dungeon and then Trial of Champions, and then Armies of Death is the sequel to that again. So there are three different books in that series, and actually now there's one more as well, because the one that was published, I should say, last year, the title of which I can't remember right now, was another sequel to that one, although I think maybe that's like an alternate sequel or prequel. I don't know. It has something to do with the same story arc of the Trial of Champions, the Death Trap dungeon itself in the city of Fang in Arancia. So I don't know much about this one. I do believe you are some kind of army general for whatever reason, and I have had my doubts before whether that is the kind of theme that appeals to me, but I'll see. I'll keep an open mind about it and see what goes on in it. And also, interestingly, quite a matching almost cover color today, and also it matches rather well with the reds in the background on my ever-changing bookshelf. One of the ways you can see it's been a while since last time I made a playthrough video is that, of course, the bookshelf behind me will have changed quite a bit since then. It's still quite messy, and that is because I still don't technically have enough room for all my books. And also there are some books that come in and there are some books that go out, because another way now to support my channel, which I might as well mention early rather than late. Of course, you can like, subscribe, and things. You can join me on Patreon. But another way to support my channel and creative work now is actually to buy something from eBay, where I have started selling particularly books, other things too, but mainly books. And many of the books you see behind me many of the ones you see over here are actually for sale. You have some fighting fantasy books there as well that are for sale on eBay right now. I'm not sure I got the right price for them yet. I started with a price that was a little bit high. I usually do that on eBay now because of the way eBay works these days. People often expect actually to like or favorite a product on eBay that is set to a fixed price, and then when somebody likes a product that's there, you as a seller get notified, and then you are given the chance to send an offer to the ones who favorited that product. And so very often you find that people expect that to happen, so they add it as a favorite, and then you give them a slightly better price. And people do that rather than sending in their own offers of what they want to pay. So I'm getting quite used to setting the price a little bit high when I start add a new product to eBay, and then reducing it gradually, or waiting for people to actually favorite a product, and then or like a product. I can't remember the exact terminology they use now, actually. Wish list, is it wish list? I can't remember now. And then I usually reduce 10, 20, 25%, depending on what it is and what the price was before. That seems to be a way that works rather well. So I'm rambling as usual, saying lots of things that I don't need to say, and of course I need to keep my voice for the rest of the playthrough. So I should probably get started and change the view to my desk if I can find the right button. That's this one, I believe. Yes. And new camera setup, of course. I showed you that last time I made a little update video. So I've got basically a new computer because I had to reinstall everything. I've got the main camera, or this camera here, is the one I've had for a few years now, and then this camera is the new one, replacing the one that actually stopped working. So I've had a camera stop working, I've had a computer stop working, I've had to change my mobile phone, and also I have to wear my reading glasses more often. But I finally found a generic non-prescription reading glasses that actually are quite good quality without being too expensive, and that makes such a big difference to how well I can read with them. The really cheap ones from Boots or Amazon, they are not great and have a much shorter range of comfort, where that actually makes it sharper for you to view through them. So I ended up reading most things without glasses. But I think it's okay for my eyes to rest a little bit and use glasses, even though I have noticed that the exercise of using my eyes for reading without glasses is actually quite good for them. So I should be careful to also do that from time to time and not just rely on the glasses, because then I get kind of dependent on them. But yeah, there you go. So I got my supplies, I got my book and my paper and my pen, and I do have dice. As usual, as you know, I do not actually like using them so much. I'm much more interested in the puzzle of a game in terms of finding the correct path through, more than the random elements. And of course, as you may be well aware, the actual difficulty level of each book in terms of both finding the path and making it through the optimum path are so hugely varied that it is not in any way fair on a player to subject him to that kind of difficulty and uncertainty. And so adding another layer of that with the dice is, in my mind, something that is superfluous to requirements. If you rely on the dice to make a good game book, then the rest of the book, the narrative structure, the puzzle structures, the hints, the clues, all those things are actually, I would even go so far as to say, subpar. It can be a bit of a cop-out even to rely on the dice to make the game for you. So a good example of this, I believe, is the game books by Victoria Hancox, who famously uses no dice in her game books. They do have puzzles. There are puzzles based on general trivia, and there's also puzzles based on information you can glean from your path through the book. And they feel in every single respect like game books, even though the game does not involve any element of chance. And I quite like that. I mean, if you imagine one of the more popular games in the world is chess, it's a game that has absolutely no single element of chance, and yet it is absolutely a game. So you don't need elements of randomness to make a game. It's games can be completely different things. And when I read these books when I was young, it was not the dice that excited me. It was finding the right way through. So I used to read them on the bus, almost like novels or short stories, and trying to find my way through and ignoring the dice all the way. So let's get started. And maybe I should do the blurb, although it looks like, again, we have to save the world. It's almost a cliche at this point, isn't it? The kingdom of Lancia is under threat. Aglax, the evil zombie lord, is amassing an army of undead warriors in eastern Lancia, beyond the forest of fiends. Nice alliteration there, by the way. His army increases in size with every attack it makes on the local villages, and every day its ranks are swelled with slaughtered victims under Aglex's evil spell. Unless they are stopped now, the undead will take over the entire kingdom. You are Alancia's only hope. Your mission is to raise an army which will defeat the terrifying undead troops. But how can you conquer an army which grows in numbers with every battle it fights? Do you have to make an undead army yourself? Let's find out. So, right, I've got my second printing book here, it looks like. Let's see, skill, stamina, and luck, standard. And of course, because I'm not using dice, I'm going to ignore ability scores generally as well. A single combat, standard. Battles, of course, there's a different rule now because of army battles. Unlike other fighting fantasy game books, it says here, you are not alone all the time on this adventure. You command an army of soldiers made up of units of various races. You start your expedition with dwarfs, elves, warriors, and knights, and others will join your army during the course of the adventure. Soldiers killed in battles are always lost in blocks of 5, and if more than one race is engaged in a battle, you may choose which ones are lost. For example, if you have employed dwarfs and knights against goblins and receive 15 casualties, you may lose 15 dwarfs or 15 knights, or 10 dwarfs and 5 knights, or 5 dwarfs and 10 knights. Now this is the aspect of the game that also is the kind of thing that makes me a bit doubtful of whether this is really my thing, because it makes a sort of a game book out of a sort of military battle kind of concept, which has never been the genre of game, like a board game, that has really appealed to me. And I think it usually works better as a computer game than it does as a board game, or certainly as a game book. But I'll give it a shot and see how I get on, because this will also sort of made it a little bit harder for me to know how to do this without the dice if I want to as well. Let's see. Remember always to make the necessary adjustments on your adventure sheet. Soldiers lost in ways other than in battle are deducted in the same way, blah, blah, blah. Skirmish battles. And then there's something called skirmish battle results. Die roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Superior, even, or inferior. Allied troops, enemy troops. From time to time on your adventure, you will fight skirmish battles. To fight a skirmish battle, follow the combat sequence below. Okay, I think I see the concept there. I'm not going to look too much in detail. I'll be in focus today, by the way. I keep forgetting to check. I think I made the focus so that when the book is about on top of my... Because this new camera, of course, has quite a shallow focus. So I do hold it like this a lot, though. Maybe I should move the focus a little bit. But then, of course, the map needs to be focused as well. Maybe I'll try to keep it like this, I think. Okay. Luck in battle. Restoring skill, stamina, and luck. Adventure sheet. We have 1 treasure, it says here. And at some point we've had 710 gold pieces. So there's been some minor marks on this one. Let's just do the background then. And let's do it like this so you can see it on your screen here on the video. I'll just have a sip of water first. Fame and fortune are 2 things which most adventurers crave. And having survived Baron Circumvit's infamous death trap dungeon, you now have both. It was thought impossible for anybody to battle their way successfully through the deadly dungeon in Fang, which was protected by the Baron's cunning trial masters. Yet somehow you survived and claimed the purse of 20,000 gold pieces in the Trial of Champions, and that's a lot in today's money. Now, wherever you walk in Fang, you are cheered, and in taverns where you drink, people ask you about your perilous journey through the dungeon. Was there a bone devil in the dungeon? Did you see the beautiful siren? How did you overcome the Lich Queen? What does a cold claw look like? What is the color of mutant orc's blood? Everybody is in awe of you and wants to know all about the evil dungeon. But the constant attention soon becomes tiring, and you resolve to set off on another quest as soon as possible. Besides, there is a new threat to Alancia which is gathering strength in the east. Before you set off, you decide to spend some of your hard-earned prize money. You commission a small castle to be built for you on the south bank of the River Cock while you are away. With the remaining 6,000 gold pieces, you decide to hire soldiers to make an army. That's what you spend the money on, isn't it? Recently, there have been sightings of a large number of orcs and goblins in the Forest of Fiends. There is a rumor that their leader is Aglax, the Shadow Demon. A Shadow Demon, as everybody knows, of course everybody knows that. Do you know that? Everybody knows, don't they? Is a servant of the demon princes and the commander of the legions of the damned. Since their banishment to the void after the first battle of Titan, however, the demon princes were thought to have been defeated forever. And yet, one of their servants is now reported to have been seen. This tale comes from an old scavenger calling himself Drek, who discovered a ruined temple near Zengis. Scratching around in the dirt in search of anything he might be able to sell, Drek found a black clay pot, corked and sealed with black wax. His curiosity proved too much for him, and he broke the pot on a stone, hoping that it might contain gold or jewels. But his excitement soon turned to terror at the sight of what happened next. As soon as the black pot broke apart, Drek was deafened by the most hideous and evil cry that he had ever heard in his life. Slowly, a mist started to form, growing ever larger and darker, until it coalesced in the shape of a black robe wrapped around a body that was invisible save only for two pulsating, blood-red eyes. Drek screamed in total fear, but the shadow demon he had released simply turned and disappeared. The Chaos Spawn was to grow again on Titan. Now, moral of the story is, if you want to lock up, say, a demon and make sure that the demon is not unleashed again into this world, would you put the demon in something fragile like a clay pot? I mean, no matter how good the sealing wax, I mean, seriously. It's fragile. If you heat it up, the wax will melt. I mean, there's absolutely so many ways that can go wrong. Yeah. Anyway. The Shadow Demon, yeah. So, on the strength of Drek's story, you post recruitment notices all over Fang. Why is it your job to do this? You're not anyone who's meant to be the protector of the realm, is it? You're just rich and famous. You could just go and retire somewhere. But there you go. The honor of fighting alongside someone of your renown, with an added bonus of payment in gold, even then you have to pay gold for these people, draws a long line of hopeful warriors outside the tavern where you intend to hire your soldiers. Many are alone, others come in groups, but all are eager to sign up. Some tell of old adventures, others of monsters slain, but you recognize the qualities you seek, and before nightfall your troops are chosen. Not knowing what dangers you will face, you decide not to hire all the... Well, you sort of already know that there are goblins and orcs and stuff, so... yeah, anyway. You decide not to hire all the warriors who have come, so as to have some gold left for the journey. You count the commission sheets and find that you have hired 100 warriors, 50 dwarfs, 50 elven archers, and 20 knights. In the morning you buy food, provisions, and baggage mules. When everything is paid for, you are left with 700 gold pieces. So you got 20,000 and now you got 700 left because you want a castle and a private army. That doesn't sound very sensible to me, I mean economically, because do you actually have an income? It sounds like it's just spending money. Anyway, I'll make a note of these of this army. I'll just do it in the margin here. So we got warriors 100, dwarfs 50, elves 50, and knights 20, which kind of presumes that neither dwarves nor elves can be knights. So yeah, well, there you go. It's kind of racist, isn't it? And 700 gold, 700. Which you put in a wooden chest and strap to one of the mules. You make your way to the town square where your small army is assembled. That's quite a town square. It had to be quite a large town square to assemble an army of 220 men plus provisions. Yeah. Each unit leader is handed a yellow banner with the symbol of a burning sword emblazoned across it. To the cheers of the citizens of Fang, you lead your army out through the east gate toward an unknown and deadly foe. Now turn to 1, which is unusually is on the right page there, because on every single fighting fantasy book I've played until now, the introduction ends on a right page, and then the turn over, and then there's an illustration, and then there's paragraph 1 usually as well. Anyway, but that's just how it is now, and it doesn't matter. It's just a layout thing. You have marched no more than 200 yards when a fat, bearded man, huffing and puffing. Let's just start by putting our number 1 there on the map. Huffing and puffing runs up alongside you. He is dressed as a sea captain, although his uniform is dirty and crumpled and his grubby hat is dented. Begging your pardon, gasped the captain, but would you listen to my offer? I have just docked my ship in Fang and found everybody full of excitement. It seems that you are the cause of it. They tell me that you are traveling east to fight some demon or something. Well, I don't know about any demons, but I'm willing to take you and your men on my ship as far as Zengis. For a small consideration. Of course. Just think of all those miles you won't have to walk. Sail up the River Cock in Captain Barnock's good ship, Flying Toucan. And only 50 gold pieces am I asking for this luxury passage. Now, that's a bargain, is it not? That's a bargain at half a price. That's what they say, isn't it? Says the old sea dog. If you wish to sail on the Flying Toucan, turn to 37. If you would rather continue marching, turn to 225. So I don't know, of course, at this point, whether that is a good idea or not. I presume that going on the boat would be a bit of a shortcut. But of course, shortcuts in fighting fantasy books often mean that you miss something that may not be essential to solving your quest, but it might be some of those things that add interest in things. But then again, of course, the trip on the Flying Toucan might be colorful in itself, so it's hard to tell sometimes. So I'm going to put 37 and 225 there. So that is sail or walk. Also, I'm not sure I trust this guy. I mean, he is looking a bit grubby, isn't he? And also, when you think about it, it is a little bit weird, isn't it? I mean, you've already planned for an overland expedition, and then somebody just randomly shows up and offers you a ship, and then you take it. That smacks of poor logistics to me as an army officer, and so I will have to turn him down because I don't trust him. I don't know this guy from Adam, and calling something a bargain sounds like he's up to something dodgy. I mean, he's not selling second-hand cars or anything, but he might as well be. So I'm going to turn him down and continue marching, and I'll go to 225. Should I change? My focus is my question. I'll just have a little look and see now, because I'm not so used to this one yet, how these things look. So let's see if I can get a little bit better focus maybe. So I am on... Let's try to get some compromise between... so now the map would be a little bit fuzzier, but I think the book will be a little bit sharper. So just see if that... Yeah, I think that's better. I'll do it like that. Okay, so 225 walk. You think about Captain Barnock's offer, but decide you would rather march east as you are more likely to recruit more troops on land. That's another thing, of course, I hadn't thought about, but yes, that was part of the plan, I guess, to see if you could recruit some more troops on the way. You set off and march through the open countryside without incident, following the River Cock eastwards. Now, the River Cock, by the way, I presume, since many of the place names that are randomly selected by the relatively inexperienced world building used in the Fighting Fantasy series, is one of those names that were stolen from Thailand, where, well, I'm not sure if it was Steve or Ian or both of them that went on holiday and then picked up some names randomly. And of course, Bangkok is named presumably from the River Cock, I would guess. And I think the true name of Bangkok is very, very long, because I believe it's not just from the name of the river, but there's other things to do with what's in that location on the river. So it's one of the longest place names in the world, even, and definitely longer than that place name in Wales, which wasn't really called that long a name, but they actually changed it, I believe, to get the world record, which I would say means that it should get disqualified from getting the world record. But the Llandfair, something 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 something, long name, ending in gogogoch. That one that you may have heard about. Yeah. So I think Bangkok actually might have been more accurately one of the longest place names in the world. The actual full title of it. Anyway. In the late afternoon, you give the order for your troops to rest and let them sit down in the knee-high grass. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 58. If you are unlucky, turn to 185. So I presume that there is something in the grass that you do not want to be subjected to. And that requires luck to avoid. In this case, I'm just going to pretend that I am lucky, because I can't be bothered to do otherwise. Now, there is, of course, one aspect of game books that I have thought about myself when I've been considering making my own game book, which is sort of a project that's stalled a little bit for the moment. And that is that when you do have any kind of randomness in your story, in your book, in your narrative, in your gameplay, I should say, I think it's very important that when something is random, that it also still leads to the potential for getting through to the correct path, but that it might change what that correct path could be, so that you're not punished by randomness, or at least not punished completely to the point that you fail entirely in your mission. But of course, such considerations were not done in Fighting Fantasy books, and especially not in books written by Ian Livingstone, as we all know, who, after all, is the undisputed king of the unfair, random insta-death. So, yeah. So a failed luck roll might, in many cases, be fatal in Fighting Fantasy books, which I think is entirely unfair. that's my opinion, and I'll stick to it. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm lucky in any case, and but out of curiosity, excuse me, I will check to see what happens if you're unlucky, because this again is something that adds a bit of color to your playthroughs to see what could happen. Oh, I don't know. That doesn't sound like. Am I looking at the? I'm not looking at the right paragraph. That's why it didn't quite match up with. So the unlucky thing is scream suddenly fills the air. It is made by one of your warriors and is quickly followed by several more uttered by other men. Giant fire ants comes a cry from an area where there is suddenly much activity. So your fire ants are setting upon you as you are resting as an army. I'm not going to do that one. I'm going to go to 58. You suddenly catch sight of a grubby sackcloth bag lying hidden in the grass. You cut it open with your sword and, much to your surprise and pleasure, find 10 gold pieces. You call cheerfully to your men, telling them it is time to move on, and in minutes you are on the march again. Turn to 274. So plus 10 gold. And when I put gold on my map, I don't know if you noticed that before, I usually put GP, which used to be the gold piece abbreviation that was commonly used in AD&D back in the day. I'm sure it still is, and also in many other games actually. It's a GP, gold pieces, which is of course easier to write than to write gold. It's 2 letters instead of 4. 274. Less than an hour later, the ground becomes soggy underfoot, and you see that you are marching straight towards a marsh. If you wish to walk on into the marsh, turn to 199. If you would rather walk the long way round the marsh, turn to 342. So march around the marsh, in fact. So we got 199 or 342. And 342 is around, and 199 is through. That was never really an option, was it? In going on a bear hunt, it was either you can't go over and you can't go under, so you have to go through. Whereas one would think that commonly there should have been another option, which is go around, and also the secret 5th option, which is turn back. But yeah, it works poetically, of course. Right. So I'm going to go around. I think that makes more sense, especially with a big army. Going through a marsh with an army sounds like a recipe for losing some men or exhausting them so much that you have to rest a longer time than you might otherwise have saved doing the shortcut through the marsh, I believe. So your march round the marsh takes you past a wooden hut. If you want to stop to take a look inside the hut, turn to 77. If you would rather keep on marching, turn to 211. So I'm going to have a little look in the hut. As you know, I cannot resist looking in huts or other buildings when I'm playing these game books, because while curiosity occasionally might kill the cat, at least when a cat is killed by its curiosity, it still has 8 lives left. Well, at least the first time. 2E11. Okay. So I'm going to check out the hut, 77. The old wooden door is stiff. You have to put your shoulder to it to open it. As the door flies open, you hear the piercing scream of a female voice and are startled by what you see. It didn't occur to you to knock first. I mean, seriously. A young elf is tied to the top of a table, which is bolted to the floor in the middle of the rubbish-strewn hut. 2 yards above her stomach hangs a sword, suspended by a single thread of cotton, which is looped over the end of an iron spike. This protrudes horizontally from a wooden beam leading down into a hole in the rickety floorboards. "Don't move!" shouts the elf. "One of the floorboards will trigger the release of the sword if you step on it. You have to decide whether or not to save the elf. Will you run in to grab the sword, throw your backpack at the sword, leave the elf, and march on?" Right. It sounds like, yeah, I mean, it's a small hut. I mean, seriously, you shouldn't, I mean, even before the sword accelerates enough to actually do any proper damage, you should be able to grasp it. No matter which floorboard triggers it. Otherwise, this hut is not a hut. It's a house. It's a villa. It's a hall. So I reject the premise of this puzzle. And of course, if running in to grab the sword is not a viable option because you trigger it, then I will dispute that conclusion and say that everything will be well. So I'm just going to run in and grab the sword because you would be able to do that. You would seriously be able to do that in the real world. And if that is not the case, then I will not. Acknowledge the results that follow. Okay, so 154, 205, and 320. And obviously, this is the work of a James Bond arch villain, because they are the only ones who will do this sort of thing, because it doesn't make any sense to leave someone in a trap like that and not watch them die rather than just killing them outright. So, leave backpack and grab. So I'm grabbing the sword. You bound across the floorboards and leap for the sword. Test your luck. I presume if you're unlucky, you actually step on the trigger. But in this case, the speed will simply be enough. And obviously, you have a sword yourself. You can just reach. You don't even have to grab the sword. You just have to knock it out of the way. It's super, super simple. You could even get one of your warriors to bring a spear in and just knock it off without even getting close. I mean, seriously, it's not a logical puzzle with a logical conclusion, I don't think. So 90 and 387, unlucky and lucky. So I'm going to be lucky in this one. You do not trigger the release of the sword and are able to grab it and throw it aside. The elf starts to cry with relief as you cut the ropes that are binding her. "Thank you," she sobs. "Thank you for saving my life." She then pulls a ring off her finger and holds it out to you, saying, "Please take this ring as a token of my gratitude. It will bring you luck. If you wish to take the ring, turn to 270. If you prefer to refuse her gift politely and rejoin your men outside, turn to 211. Okay. A211, leave, and 270. Ring. Yeah, I'm accepting it, of course. You take the ring and place it on your little finger because of its small size. Suddenly the elf starts to laugh, but it is a sinister laugh. She begins to tug at her ears, and you watched her peel the skin forward off her face to reveal a hideous skull with green, blood-veined eyes. She drops the mask on the floor and steps towards you, mouth wide open. You try to draw your sword, but find yourself unable to move. With terrible ferocity, she starts to bite at your throat, as is the way of a trickster hag. Your adventure is over. And I thought that was actually quite a good ending. Brilliant, actually, yes. So, and because it's not an insta-death, it is actually also explains why the odd setup. It's just that the victim in this case was also the arch villain. Yes, indeed. So I'm just wondering then, if you are unlucky and trigger the sword, what happens then? Because surely the hag would not suffer any consequences of that. Ah, yes, the sword just bounces off. So I suppose if you trigger it, then you're actually more likely to suspect foul play, I guess. If, yeah. So that is quite interesting. No, I quite like that ending. It's quite a colorful one. Now, normally I would be doing a much longer episode than what I'm doing now, but I actually have many other things I'm supposed to be doing, and I don't really want to do too long playing sessions as I'm getting into it again, because it actually makes it harder for me sometimes to keep the momentum going. So I think I'll leave it there for now, but and just sort of start probably from the same bit where I ended now. So just going back one step and then leaving, instead of allowing myself, excuse me, to be tricked by the hag there. So I think that I'll leave that for now. And so I do apologize. I know you like my longer episodes, but I've been jabbering on a bit about other stuff as usual. And many of my episodes are, let's be frank, too long, really. Anyway, some of them are 3 hours long, aren't they? So yeah, I do have things to do, and also my throat is a bit dry from all this talking I've been doing, it seems like. So I hope you enjoyed this little video today, and as usual, you know what to do to support my channel. You got like, share, subscribe, join me on Patreon, buy some of my stuff on eBay. There's music on Bandcamp. There's artwork, print-on-demand artwork on pixels.com. There is merchandise stuff with designs and artwork on Zazzle. And have I mentioned everything then? Oh, yes. And of course, my poetry collections on Amazon, and all the links are in the description. They should be anyway. And if they're not, then, well, ask me if you're wondering. If it just accidentally they might not be there, then that was not intentional. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, where I start from this point and will avoid being tricked this time. And I'll make that episode. I'll try to make that episode soon anyway. I'm not going to promise it 100%, but I'm going to promise to try. Okay. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.